A serious accident damaged the engine, causing the people to lose control and then crash straight into the deep sea. Hundreds of passengers died on the spot. Seawater ground filled the empty compartment of the plane, killing a number of people. Luckily, they were still alive and fell into a deadlock situation. The rescue team quickly approached the plane, but around them were a group of extremely hungry sharks, ready to pounce and tear apart the rescue team at any time. How can we rescue the surviving victim? Join the channel to follow the development of this extremely steamy movie that taking the cinema by storm. Eva Fathermead is a candidate for president, governor of the state of Long Us. So she invited her lover named Jay and her best friend Kai to enjoy a trip around the world to protect her daughter's safety. The governor sent a butler with curly hair, follow to protect and promptly take care of Eve. This makes Jet feel visibly uncomfortable because he will not be able to play puzzle with his lover like that. The plane started to take off as the governor daughter, so Eva and the two friends chose the first-class cabin to make it luxurious. Next to them was Miss Rosa and her grandparents, who also chose the VIP cabin because the family had too much money and didn't know how to spend all the flight. How long did it take for everyone to discover that there was a flock of birds colliding with the engine fan blades, causing the passenger compartment to move slightly? But the young flight attendant with a calm face gently told customers to rest assured that this was just an incident. Normal power is like needing sugar in a milk carton. There are absolutely no serious problems at all. But the plane is getting stronger every time, so how can rest assured? Not only that, the engine fan blade suddenly caught fire and crashed. A piece of metal hit straight into the fuselage of the plane, causing everyone to scream, it's just a small incident. Who would thought? Just as he finished speaking, the engine exploded, blowing a big hole in the B-class cabin. The pressure difference caused many passengers to be sucked out of the plane even though they had previously fastened their seatbelt. With such terrible wind force, how could human strength be able to endure the horrifying scene before their eyes that made everyone scared? Only a few passengers sitting far away were lucky enough not to have been sucked out, but at this time the engine was seriously damaged, causing the plane to completely lose control and plummet straight down because below was the sea, so there was no collision. The plane still maintained its shape without exploding. However, the weight was so great that it gradually sank to the bottom of the sea. Eva Group was fortunately still safe. The baby and her grandparents were flooded, submerged, but still promptly emerged from the water. But the girl-grandmother was exhausted and fell into a critical condition. Fortunately, the flight attendant knew how to give first aid. After a period of artificial respiration, the old lady finally survived, had escaped the hands of death. But the old man was not so lucky. Now there were only 7 survivors left, all faces showing concern and panic. At this time, the butler spoke up and sat down. Here, cry and wait for death. Second, stay calm, let work together to find a way to get out. The water is flooding, the injured space is getting thinner. The amount of oxygen is getting thinner. Let's check to see if we still have oxygen tanks left. No more. The young flight attendant with a face as pale as a frog asked quickly opened the drawers to take a lull. But he was all alone. Where should we go? I don't know what to do now. The butler said he would dive down to front to checking the situation. The old man immediately said if possible, please help me get something for my husband as a souvenir. Now I don't know how to live or die. The amount of oxygen is getting thinner. Let's check to see if we still have oxygen tanks left. No more. The young flight attendant with a face as pale as a frog asked quickly opened the drawers to take a lull. But he was all alone. Where should we go? I don't know what to do now. The butler said he would dive down to front to checking the situation. The old man immediately said if possible, please help me get something for my husband as a souvenir. Now I don't know how to live or die. Eva breathed a sigh of relief. I was relieved to see that my butler had returned, but he was seriously injured in abdomen after the attack. Just now, the butler gave the hat to the old, but before he could say the last word to Eva, the shark pulled him under the water. You probably know the ending. Even though he was not a relative, the housekeeper was the one who took care of Eva from childhood until now. So the feeling of sadness was evident, on her face, but on her close friend Kai sighed. The previous mid-air collision had broken his arm due to limited medical equipment, so they could temporarily only wrap his arm tightly to prevent the wound from to become more serious. Everyone was in a state of panic when a can of soft drink suddenly let out strange sounds like that, which was enough to make the space here extremely tense after learning that the plane was carrying Fang's daughter. The rescue team immediately sent a helicopter to search. But in such a vast sea, it is very difficult to locate the place where the plane crashed. Not only that, but the plane occasionally shook slightly because of the fish. The fat man outside wanted to rush in to get some fresh meat, and before everyone could calm down, the plane suddenly shook more violently. It turned out that it was lying on top of a rocky mountain and slowly fell into the abyss, causing the oxygen tank to explode, making the atmosphere more tense than ever. Eva couldn't continue to pretend that she was fine. She quietly went to the bathroom and cried there because she had never been afraid of death like now. After a while, while searching, the helicopter discovered debris from the plane fuselage floating all over the sea. However, They could not determine the exact location of where the plane crashed, so they sent 2 rescuers, diving down to search for the vast ocean floor. The deeper you dive, the more limited the light becomes. Finding the plane is indeed very difficult, but luckily, the sunken plane gradually reveals itself to the 2 victims. The rescue staff continued to move closer to the plane to promptly rescue everyone inside the cabin. Fear was clearly visible on their faces. Only little Rosa was always optimistic, smiling. That also helped everyone. This time they had more motivation to overcome the disaster, and the joy filled them again when they saw the lifeguard outside. Everyone inside was screaming and calling in joy. This is not the light at the end of the dark tunnel. Or why did the lifeguard signal okay to put the group inside at ease? But he didn't know that the person in danger was himself. Just as he turned his head back, the shark suddenly appeared and bit him, straight into the lifeguard body. He tried to struggle and was lucky to keep one leg while his body was in the shark belly. The scene before his eyes made everyone afraid to crawl out of their pants. Everyone thought that there were definitely still rescue workers outside searching, so they needed move out to be rescued. But while moving, young Jess accidentally slipped and fell into the water immediately. A shark appeared and bit the guy's leg. Everyone tried to hold and pull Jess up, but his leg turned into nothing. The little guy was so young that having to witness this scene must have been haunting, so Grandma took the girl inside to stop the bleeding from the wound in her leg. They had to use a rope to tighten it. The young man tried to act like he was okay, but deep in his heart, tears were a wide ocean. Now if he wants to move out of here, they need to have diving gear, and the diving gear is under the luggage compartment. While one young man broke his arm, one young man broke the flight attendant leg, the other young man was weak and trembling like a cow. There was no other way for Eva to be forced to swim down to the luggage compartment alone, holding a flare to find diving equipment. Everyone above was tense and waiting. Then suddenly the light below suddenly went out, and they were confused when Eva surfaced in her arms, still holding the diving equipment bag. After giving the items to everyone, she turned to comfort Jet so that he would have more motivation to overcome this incident. The others were still looking to see if there were any other rescue teams outside, but he couldn't wait any longer because he had lost too much blood. So he went to his final resting place. He had just lost his housekeeper and now lost his lover, causing Eva to fall into a state of despair before she could feel sad. An extremely strong shock occurred. The machine broke in half. One half fell into the abyss. The other half was still gradually falling with water that began to flood into the trauma compartment. If we continued to wait, we would definitely die. The only way to die is to take the risk of diving out of the ship and swimming to the surface. When everyone had prepared their diving gear and followed the plan, the old lady said that I was old, so I didn't have the strength to dive out of here. Please save my grandchild. Eva immediately hugged baby Rosa and dived into the water. A shark appeared in front of her. She opened the latch on the oxygen tank, causing the fat fish to panic and quickly turn around and leave. The old lady knew she didn't know I was healthy enough, so I decided to stay and wait for death. Perhaps the most desperate thing was knowing I was about to die and not being able to do anything. On this side, the flight attendant couldn't see Kai behind him, so he decided to go back and search. It turned out that Kai had a broken arm, so he couldn't swim. Before he could pull the fat guy along, a shark appeared and gave Kai a fatal bite. Eva and Rosa waited outside for the young flight attendant to get oxygen for all 3 forgets. Get more oxygen and prepare for the last trip out of the water. When everything is ready, Eva pushed the young flight attendant and the little girl out of the plane first, but unfortunately she was blocked by a shark. The female protagonist tried to hold her breath and stand motionlessness. Fortunately, the ocean killer ignored her, but its tail accidentally knocked out the oxygen tube in Eva's mouth. Immediately the female protagonist swam quickly out of there. She thought she had escaped, but at that moment, the plane fell into the abyss. The inertia created a force of gravity that pulled Eva downward. She grabbed the back of the chair and followed each chair, luckily escaping the plane, but only to a large extent. The oxygen in her body was getting less and less. Eva tried to kick hard to get to the surface as quickly as possible, but her body no longer obeyed her. Eva passed out due to severe lack of oxygen. Her face, when she put her skin back on, she turned pale and wore a life jacket, slowly bringing Eva's body to the surface of the sea, thinking that the female lead could not survive. The director suddenly woke her up at the end of the movie. Eva with her daughter-in-law Saa Anton, the young flight attendant, was rescued promptly by a helicopter. Perhaps after this accident, they will never fly again. This is the end of the movie. Hello and see you again.